Okay, let's just get right into it. We all get into arguments, right? But what if I told you there's a way to fight smarter? Well, in this explainer, we are going to dive deep into the science behind relationship conflict and, more importantly, how you can actually use those tough moments to build a stronger connection.
You know the feeling. We've all been there. One minute, you're having a minor disagreement, and the next, it just explodes. You say something you don't mean, something way harsher than the situation called for. It feels like your emotions just grab the steering wheel, leaving your rational brain in the back seat shouting, "Wait, what just happened?" So that feeling of completely losing control, it's not just in your head. Well, it is in your head, but it's a real, measurable biological event. It's a powerful, primal response that's hardwired deep inside your brain. And honestly, understanding it is the first real step to getting a handle on it.
The term for it is an amygdala hijack, and it is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. See, your amygdala, it's like your brain's super-sensitive smoke detector. It's designed to sense danger. And when it thinks it smells smoke, it pulls the fire alarm, flooding your body with stress hormones. The problem is it can't tell the difference between a real five-alarm fire and you just burning the toast. Your logical brain gets completely sidelined.
And this hijack triggers that classic fight-or-flight response. You can feel it, right? Your heart starts pounding, your breathing gets all fast and shallow, and your ability to think clearly just evaporates. You are physically and emotionally geared up to face a saber-toothed tiger, even when the actual threat is just a comment about who left the wet towel on the bed. So when this brain hijack happens during an argument with our partner, it creates the absolute perfect storm for some really destructive communication patterns to show up. And the legendary relationship researcher Dr. John Gottman, he gave these patterns a very ominous name.
That's right, the Four Horsemen. And believe me, this isn't just a dramatic metaphor. What makes Dr. Gottman's research so incredible is that he found the presence of these four specific behaviors can predict whether a couple will divorce with over 90% accuracy. That's just staggering. So, the first horseman to ride in is criticism. And this is so much more than just a complaint. See, a complaint targets a specific action. But criticism? Criticism is a flat-out personal attack. It's the difference between saying, "I'm upset that the trash wasn't taken out," and saying, "You're so lazy, you never help around the house." And just look at the contrast here. It's so clear. The complaint is all about I was scared. It focuses on a specific event and how it made you feel. But the criticism, it's a global attack on their entire character. You are selfish. One of these invites a conversation. The other one just starts a war. Now, when you feel like you're being attacked, what's the first thing you want to do? You want to defend yourself, right? Of course. And that is the second horseman, defensiveness. It's that knee-jerk reaction to ward off the criticism by essentially blaming them back. Instead of actually hearing what they're saying, you're just busy crafting your comeback. Then comes the third horseman, contempt. And I gotta tell you, this one is the most poisonous of them all. Contempt is any communication that comes from a place of superiority. We're talking sarcasm, mockery, eye-rolling, name-calling. And here's the really chilling part. Gottman's research found that contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. The single greatest. And finally, we have the fourth horseman, stonewalling. This is what happens when one partner becomes so emotionally overwhelmed, so flooded, that they just shut down. They stop responding. Now, it's not always meant to be punishing. It's often a desperate attempt at self-preservation. But for the person on the receiving end, it feels like you're talking to a brick wall. So why? Why are these four behaviors so absolutely devastating to a relationship? What is it about them that triggers such a powerfully negative reaction in all of us? Well, it all goes back to how our brains are wired to perceive a threat. This quote from psychologist Arzu Shah just nails it. When you feel emotionally invalidated, when you feel unseen, unheard, or just plain misunderstood by your partner, your brain literally perceives that as a threat to your survival. It's the same ancient system that evolved to keep us safe from predators, except now it's being set off by the person we love the most. Okay, but it is not all doom and gloom, I promise. Here's the really good news. For every single one of those destructive horsemen, there is a specific, learnable skill, an antidote, that can totally transform the dynamic of your arguments. So, how do we actually fight back against these four horsemen? We use their antidotes. And these aren't just about trying not to do the bad thing. They're about actively and intentionally building a better, more constructive way to talk to each other, even when you're frustrated or hurt.
So to fight criticism, you use what Dr. Gottman calls a gentle startup. Instead of launching an attack, you start with, "I feel." Then you describe the specific situation, no blame, and then you state a positive need. Psychologically, this is brilliant because it frames the problem as something you can solve together instead of some fatal flaw in your partner.
And the antidote to defensiveness? It's as simple as it is powerful. Take some responsibility. Seriously, even if you can only agree with a tiny sliver of what your partner is saying, owning your part is a total game changer. It's like flipping a switch that de-escalates the conflict because it tells your partner, "I hear you," which immediately lowers their defenses.
Now, beyond just managing fights when they happen, the most successful, happiest couples share this one powerful habit that keeps their relationship strong. It's all about what happens in the small, quiet moments between the big arguments.
Dr. Gottman calls these bids for connection, and you can think of them as the basic currency of any healthy relationship. A bid is any attempt to get attention, affection, or connection. It could be a sigh, a touch on the arm, or a direct question. So if your partner looks out the window and says, "Wow, look at that bird," that's a bid. Ignoring it is turning away. But saying, "Oh, that's cool, what kind is it?" that's turning towards.
And this chart, wow, it just shows you how huge a difference this makes. In his research, Gottman found that the couples who were still happily married after 6 years had turned towards each other's bids 86% of the time. The couples who ended up divorced, only 33%. Consistently missing those tiny moments of connection, it is devastating over time.
So the big takeaway here is that fighting smarter isn't about never fighting at all. It's about having the right tools in your toolbox. It's about watching your tone of voice, staying focused on one issue at a time, and knowing when to take a break if you feel that amygdala hijack starting to take over. It's about remembering that you're on the same team, even when you disagree. Ultimately, every single disagreement presents a choice. It's a fork in the road. We can let that primitive part of our brain take the wheel and spiral into a hijacked, or we can grab our tools, take a breath, and try to turn that moment of conflict into a moment of real understanding and connection. And that choice, well, that's up to you.